This video is about angle notation and vocabulary. So looking at the angle pictured in problem number 1, there are 3 ways that we could name this angle. We could name it with a single letter, looking at the vertex, which is A, so we could call this angle A, like that. Or we could use all 3 letters, being careful to put the vertex in the middle. A has to go in the middle. So we could call this angle BAC, angle BAC, or we could write it the other way around and call it angle CAB. Alright, the important thing is that the vertex is in the middle when you use the 3-letter name. So, in this figure, we're mentioning the vocabulary word adjacent angles. Adjacent means angles that are right next to each other. They can't be overlapping. So, for example, this angle is adjacent to this angle. These 2 angles are adjacent. So, we will have to use the 3-letter names because the vertex W is shared by the 2 different angles. So, we have no choice but to call the first angle angle XWY, for example, XWY. And the second angle, we can call that YWZ. So angle YWZ. These are adjacent angles. Okay, given that the measure of angle A is 55 degrees, find the measure of its complement and supplement. Alright, well, complementary angles add up to 90. Alright, add to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles add to 180 degrees. So if I want to find the complement of A, I need to do 90 minus angle A. And if I want to do the supplement, I'm going to do 180 minus, and really I should say the measure of angle A. Let me be more precise. Okay, so I have 55 degrees, so of course if I do 90 minus 55, that's going to give me the complement, which is 35. On the other hand, if I want to do the supplement, I need to do 180 minus 55. So that's 125. Okay, given that the measure of angle B is 89, find the measure of its complement and supplement. So here again, for the complement, I will do 90 minus the measure of angle B. And for the supplement, I will do 180 minus the measure of angle B. Okay, so obviously 90 minus 89 is 1 degree. Okay, and so 90 minus 89, you can definitely do in your head. 180 minus 89 is 91. So the supplement would be 91 degrees. Now in this diagram, the measure of angle 1 is 60 degrees. Find the measure of the other angles. So when you have intersecting lines like this, it creates 2 pairs of vertical angles. Now I know you're used to thinking of the word vertical as meaning up and down, like this. Like this is a vertical line, this is a horizontal line. But this really doesn't have anything to do with that. When I say vertical angles, even angles like this, angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles. Okay, when you have intersecting lines, these angles that are across from each other are vertical angles. And let's see, I'm going to just choose a different color real quick. So like angle 2 and angle 4 That's another pair of vertical angles. Vertical angles are equal. That's the vertical angle theorem. So if the measure of angle 1 is 60 degrees, then the measure of angle 3 is also going to be 60 degrees, all right, because they are vertical angles. So I can go ahead and fill that in right now. Now, consider the measure of angle 2 for a moment. Maybe I'll zoom in really closely. So here's what I want you to focus on with me. Okay, now I'm going to cover this up for a second. I'm going to just sort of cover all that up, because what I really want you to focus on is the upper half of this picture. Do you see how angle 2 and angle 3 together form a straight angle? Together they have to add up to 180, because 180 degrees is a straight line. So if this is 60, if I want to find the other angle, I can subtract from 180. Alright, so I'm just going to go 180. I mean, you should be able to do this in your head. But just in case your brain is feeling weak and mushy, 180 minus 60 is 120. So this angle over here is going to be 120 degrees. Notice, again, thinking the other way, these add up to 180. 120 plus 60, that's 180. That would make a straight line. So that's the measure of angle 2, is 120 degrees. Now, I'm going to uncover this now. So remember that these are vertical angles, angle 2 and angle 4. Vertical angles are equal. So angle 4 should also be, whoops, for some reason I started to put 130. Angle 4 should also be 120 degrees. For number 6, we are to choose a pair of angles that are both congruent and complementary. So congruent means that they are the same, and complementary means they add up to 90. Alright, so these are the same, so these are congruent, but are they complementary? Do they add up to 90? No, they add up to 180. These are congruent and supplementary, but they are not complementary. These are complementary because they add up to 90, but they are not congruent. They are not the same. These are neither congruent nor complementary. They are not the same, and they also do not add up to 90. That just leaves D, which thankfully is the correct answer, because they are both congruent and complementary. They are the same, and they add up to 90 degrees. Alright, think of it. 45 plus 45. Oh, look, that's 90 degrees, complementary. Choose a pair of angles that are congruent and supplementary. So first of all, let's start with congruent. These are congruent. These are not congruent. These are not congruent. Alright, so that narrows it down to A and D. We already saw on the previous problem, 45 plus 45 is 90, so these were complementary. Supplementary means they have to add to 180. 90 plus 90 is 180, so these are both congruent and supplementary. Okay, this is some algebra review. So when you're solving an equation, you're trying to get x by itself. You would start off this problem by subtracting 18 from both sides. So that will leave you with 2x equals 28. Okay, now in a situation like this where you have multiplication happening and you want to get rid of that number, you do the opposite and you divide. You divide both sides by 2 like this. That way these will cancel each other out, and that's going to leave you with x is equal to, and 28 divided by 2 is 14. So that would be the answer, number 8. Now, number 9 is slightly more advanced. Notice that we have a variable on both sides of the equation. Whenever you have a variable on both sides, the first thing you want to do is get those together on one side. So I will do that by subtracting 5x from both sides of the equation. I think I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so that's going to cancel these out because they're opposites. Now some students are still having trouble adding and subtracting with positive and negative numbers. So like here's just a quick tutorial on this. I'm about to combine a positive 2 and a negative 5, and of course the x goes with it, but positive 2 and negative 5. So positive 2, think of that as 2 positive objects, like positive and positive, plus plus. Negative 5, think of this as 5 negative objects, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives. Alright, and then you're going to combine these, keeping in mind that negatives and positives cancel each other out. So this pair of negatives and positives will cancel each other out. So how many does that leave, and what kind? Alright, hopefully you can see that leaves 3 negatives, or negative 3. So 2 and negative 5 together make negative 3. So the idea is not to draw these pictures all the time, but to rather picture them in your mind to help you. Please do not rely on a calculator to do this. So this would be negative 3x plus 18 is equal to negative 6. Now that we have x only on the left side of the equation, the rest should be easy. Let's subtract 18 from both sides. Okay, and that's going to give us negative 3x is equal to. Now this would be a lot to draw, but imagine, look, go back to my tutorial for a second. Imagine that instead of having a positive 2 and a negative 5, say if I had a negative 2 and a negative 5. Alright, so I had 2 negatives and then I have 5 negatives. Alright, are these going to cancel each other out? No, they're all negatives. Nothing cancels out. So because nothing cancels out, I just have one big batch of negatives. Alright, I would have a total of 7 negatives, or negative 7. So that's the situation here. Nothing is canceling out. Notice that they don't turn to a positive. Some students think, oh, a negative and a negative make a positive. No, that you're thinking of multiplication. So I'm just going to have more negatives. So it's just a matter of 6 plus 18 is 24. So this will be negative 24. Alright, and obviously you could do this on a calculator if you need to. But just be careful. If I were you, I would always do this as addition. So I would do negative 6 and then plus, and then I would do negative 18. Notice I'm using this little negative sign down here, not the gray minus sign. Alright, and that will give you negative 24 as well. Anyway, now that I want to get x by itself, I need to divide both sides by negative 3. Now, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so this is going to be positive 8. Alright, here we have to watch out for like terms. Here we have 18 and 46 together on the same side of the equation. These are like terms, so we're going to put those together. So I'm going to just bring down my 2x plus. Now 18 plus 46, that's 64. Alright, so now we can get back to getting x by itself by subtracting 64 from both sides. Okay, so these cancel each other out, and that will leave 2x equals. So 90 minus 64, that's going to be 26. So it's time to get rid of that 2. Because it is multiplication, we will do the opposite, and we will divide both sides by 2. That way these will cancel each other out, and that's going to leave x is equal to 13. Number 11, I have lots of like terms. So notice that I have the 2x and the 5x. Those are like terms because they both have the x. And then on the other hand, I have 18 and I have negative 6. Those are also like terms. They're on the same side of the equation. So I am not going to, for example, subtract 5x from both sides. They are already on the same side of the equation. So I'm not going to do the opposite. I'm just going to do 2x plus 5x, that is 7x. So if I put these two together, that is 7x. And similarly, I'm just going to combine these two together. 18 minus 6, that's going to be 12. So I'm going to have plus 12. And then equals 90. So now I can go on with the rest of the problem. Getting x by itself, I will subtract 12 from both sides, and that will leave me with 7x is equal to, what's that going to be, 78. Now it's time to divide both sides by 7 and get that x by itself. Now 7 does not go evenly into 78, so if they want an exact answer, I would have to leave this as 78 over 7. So that is one version of the answer. Now if they ask you for a decimal, we can do that as well. 78 divided by 7. Okay, I'm going to round this to 3 decimal places, so 11.143, got to round up. Alright, so be prepared to give me either answer. If I ask you for a decimal, you're going to give me this. But if I ask you for an exact answer, if I use this word, exact, as opposed to rounded, then you want to give me the fraction. Alright, I'm looking back at the directions, and it's saying reduce fraction if necessary, no decimals. Okay, so I'm just going to erase the decimal version because the directions made it clear. We want exact. For number 12, let's start by looking for like terms, which we see right here. Okay, on the same side of the equation. So that's going to be 64 is equal to 180. And then subtract 64 from both sides. So that's going to give me 2x is equal to 116. Time to divide both sides by 2 to get x by itself. So x is equal to 58. Alright, again we have a couple different sets of like terms. We have 2x and 5x. Those are like terms. Together that makes 7x. And then we have 18 and -6. Together that makes 12. Alright, remember, once again, we are not doing minus 5x from both sides because they are already on the same side of the equation. And that's going to equal 180. So now we're back to subtract 12 from both sides. I feel, is this the same problem that we just did? Oh, it's 180 this time, not 90. Okay, so that's going to give us $168. So now we have 7x is equal to 168. Time to divide both sides by 7 to get rid of that 7 in the front. Okay, I have a feeling this does not go in evenly. So 168 over 7. Oh, it does go in evenly. So that's going to be 24. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.